Look out for yourself. And that means, and I don't mean be selfish because you don't have to be selfish, but you have to look out for numero uno, and that's yourself.
Welcome to Rooted and Rising, where we focus on becoming whole through the mind, body, and spirit together. My name is Lamisa. My guest today is Regina Lewis from Brightway Planning.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me back again.
Yes, it is awesome to have you back. So let's jump into why we are here today. What is a credit score and why is it important?
Wow, great question. And today, the credit score is a score that ranges between 300 and 800 and 850, and it's used by lenders or potential lenders to determine an individual's credit worthiness. So on that scale, you want to be in the 620 going, depending on what you're purchasing. You want to be in the higher end of that scale. And most for mortgages, they kind of start out between 620, 660. But the higher the score is, it will be better for you, the individual, meaning you'll have a better interest rate. You won't have to pay as much back if you have a higher credit score. So that's one of the things that I work with individuals on, increasing their credit score.
How is a credit score different from a credit report?
Okay, so as I just stated about the credit score, that score determines your credit worthiness. Now, on your credit report, the items that you might have on your credit report contains your things that you have incurred from a debt perspective, like your mortgage installment loans, car loans, and things like that. And so on your credit report, the score derives from your credit report, so to help individuals determine if you're an individual that they want to lend credit to or they want to grant credit to. So they will use your credit report again to determine your credit worthiness, if you're paying your bills on time and things of that nature. So the two kind of go hand in hand together. Again, the credit score is derived from the credit report, depending on how well you've been doing with your credit. So that's how that works.
What's your opinion on keeping old credit cards with annual fees open versus closing them?
Okay, so for any type, if your credit is paid off, like you pay off your credit card, and this, I don't advise people to close a credit card account, because what happens if you close your credit card, it will potentially have an adverse it will have an adverse action on your credit report, which means it will lower your credit. But and that's temporarily. Anything that goes down can come up, but it has the potential to lower your credit score. But now, if you're looking at the if you're paying, I don't advise people to get a credit card that's going to have and that you have to pay annual fees on it. But one of the things that you can do, and some people do it as they're reestablishing your credit, which is quite okay. But what you would do is, after you have reestablished yourself and you see your credit score has gone up and you've gotten yourself in a better financial position, what you could do is contact that lender and ask them to transfer you over to a credit card that does not have an annual fees. Because as a financial advisor, I do not advise anybody to give away money. We don't want to give away money, so we don't want to have to pay any additional fees. And so you don't really want to close that card. But if you're not, because some people, if you're not as disciplined, you may want to go ahead, if you have too many cards or you're trying to reestablish your credit or get yourself in a better financial position, you may want to go ahead and close that card, mindful that it could adversely affect your credit score. But again, we're looking at long term and not necessarily in the short term, because we're trying to rebuild ourselves. So you can close that credit to assist you in getting a better financial position. Close that card, excuse me, to get yourself in a better financial position. That's the advice that I like to give to individuals.
Escape to Hot Springs, Arkansas, and reconnect with yourself at our Feed Your Soul Wellness Retreat happening April 29th. Imagine yourself surrounded by healing waters, expert guidance, and a community dedicated to real wellness. This is your moment to root and rise. Just lock in your spot and save with our early bird registration. opening November 1st through November 30th. Set your clocks as there are limited space available. Now, back to the episode. What are important things to look for when applying for a credit card?
Okay, so initially you want to research the company, do your due diligence to make sure that they are providing you or giving you what they say they're going to give to you. And when you're looking at the company, you want to look at what is the interest rate on that company. In my opinion, most credit cards have very high interest rates. So I advise individuals. It actually doesn't matter about your credit. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter about your credit score, but even if you have a high credit score, you're going to pay a lot in interest on a credit card. So what I tell individuals is make sure when you charge, don't charge more than what you can actually pay for, and we want to pay those cards off before the end of the month. Especially before the statement due date. Okay, so you're going to research the company, do your due diligence, and make sure they are providing you what they said. And look for the incentives and the perks that they may offer. Are they offering rewards on that credit card? And if so, how advantageous is it going to be for you? Because you don't want to have to, like I say, pay interest on it, and then they are giving you rewards, but actually the two of them are canceling each other out. So do your due diligence and make sure it works for you.
Do you authorize users' accounts factors into my overall credit strategy, and when should I remove them?
Okay, so authorize you said authorize individuals on a credit card, authorize users on a credit card. Okay, got it. Okay, so we like to help people. If we ourselves are in a better financial position, maybe our children would like to help people. So, and you do that, you authorize them to be a user on your card to assist them in increasing their credit score. Now, be careful because you want to make sure that they're not going to hurt your credit, things that you've worked so hard to achieve. So, if they are not have good habits, and if it's causing your credit score to be affected by them not having good habits or not being disciplined, then you want to remove them from being an authorized user on your account. But you just have to know the people that you're trying to help. They can be an authorized user. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt you until what their actions start to hurt what you're trying to do and trying to help them. So that's how I would answer that question.
Now that you hit on that, my daughter was in college and I added her to one of my accounts, and she did not know until she went to apply for a credit card, and she was wondering why she had a high credit score.
Oh, okay. So, and that's good. That's good because, like I stated, if you want to help an individual have a high credit score, you can add them as an authorized user. Because I have considered doing that myself for my daughter to assist them in getting their credit score up. So it can help. And but what happens is your good discipline and your good habits have assisted her in having a high credit score, which is good. And there's absolutely not a thing wrong with that. And as long as it works, you can keep her on. You can keep them on forever. It's not going to hurt. It's only if you're doing something, say like a friend or another family member or somebody that you can't reach out and touch, you know what I mean, and reel them back in, then, we got to cut that umbilical cord, so to speak.
Do you recommend I approach credit differently in the 6 to 12 months before a major loan application versus during wealth building years?
Let's use one example. You're going to be purchasing a home. You want to get credit worthy to purchase a home. So, and any loan, mortgage broker or anyone is going to tell you the same thing. So, in my experience, you don't want to generate any additional debt. You want to work on your current debt, getting those bills paid down so that you could, because when you're applying for most major credit purchases, they're looking at your debt to income. So you want to get that debt down so that when they look at it and they do that analysis, you could be able to have more, meaning you'll be able to purchase a bigger home or be able to be competitive in the market. So you're going to apply for any new credit because you don't want to add anything to it, because like again, they're looking at your debt to income ratio. You don't want anybody doing any hard pulls on your credit, going in trying to offer you anything. Some people might offer you something that sounds good, but if you're trying to make a major purchase, then that is not the something that you want to look into. Lenders don't like it when you're looking and seeking credit, because it looks like that you might be a risk a little down the line. So, and what was the other part? Oh, wealth building. Okay, so and that's wealth building really occurs, as you know, later in life. It really does. You're able to build your wealth later in life, because initially you got children, family, mortgages, and you have a lot of credit, a lot of things going on. Life, what they say, life be lifing, right? So things are going on. So in the latter part is when people really look at wealth building, and those are the times that when you're doing your wealth building, you want to increase your assets, and you want to do more saving and looking at more things, investing and things of that nature, to increase your wealth as you get. And some people start early. Some people can start early if they're disciplined enough. But I find, with talking to my clients and individuals, that wealth building starts a little later in life. Now, that's not to say that you can't create savings along the way, because you got to have something. You got to create a savings for that rainy day, no matter what time, where you are in the span of your life. But when you want, again, in the early stages, if you want to make major purchases, then kind of pull back, because you don't want to create more debt. You want to put yourself in a better financial position. And then what I find is, once you put yourself in a better financial position as you're doing the things that I recommend to my clients, in actuality, you are building wealth, or you're definitely getting yourself in a position to increase your wealth.
When you say pulling your credit, is that something like checking your credit score on Experian.com?
No. And I'll tell you, no, yes and no. Okay. Because I have experience with that, because I do use Experian.com. That's what I use for my credit. You can do both on there, but if you're going to credit, in most cases, for a fee, for an additional small fee, you can pull your credit report, which is going to show your credit history, how you're paying your bills, how much debt you have, and what you have outstanding. But I pay a little small fee additionally, so I can get my credit score, excuse me. And what I love about that is I can not only just get my credit score, I can get all three of them for that one fee. So I can get all three credit scores and all three credit reports. So if you're just looking to get a credit report, you don't have to pay that additional fee. You can get your credit report, anyway. But if you want to get your credit score, sometimes let me rephrase that. If you go to Experian.com, you can get your credit report and your credit score only for that one, for a small fee. They also will allow you to pay a little slight larger fee, and you can get all three credit bureaus' reports and scores. It's Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Okay, and prior to COVID, I know a lot of things happened and changed during the COVID span, but you could only pull your credit report once every 6 months. But now, and that's all three of them, and now since COVID, post-COVID, you can pull your credit report weekly from each one of those. And you go to www.annualcreditreport.com. That's the free one. Again, that's www.annualcreditreport.com. It is free, and you can get all three of your credit reports. And people used to say, when it was only 6 months, pull one every quarter. So that way, in that 6 month time frame, you can pull all three. But since that changed, you can pull them weekly. And in some cases, if you have applied for credit and you've been denied, then you can request a copy of your credit report as well. But I like to tell my clients to go to the free one and run it as often as you need to, because you need to be aware of what's hitting your credit report, because not everything that's on your credit report is accurate. And you do have the right to challenge things that are on your credit report. And the credit bureau must, within a 30-day time frame, answer your inquiry or respond to your inquiry to make sure that they're working along with you. That is your right. That is your right to do that.
What are some of the examples of challenging something that's on your credit report that shouldn't be there?
Okay, okay, there are many. There are many, but I'm going to give you just a few. Okay, say for instance, you had a credit and you did not satisfy that debt, and creditors sell your information. So if it's been a minute and you want to question the validity of that data, excuse me, you can go in and have the credit bureau validate that. And another thing, if you have paying your credit on time, if you see that there's an error and you paid on a certain date, and it has, sometimes because people make mistakes and some things are system generated, and if that creditor didn't report accurate information, you can challenge that, because a 30, 60, 90-day late fee will drop your credit score. So what you need to do is just kindly write them a letter and just tell them the date that you paid it and that they need to correct that. I know that with my mortgage, this was a couple of years ago, my mortgage company, because you know what mortgage companies do? They sell your mortgages. So in this case, they sold my mortgage to another mortgage company, and they can do that without your authorization. I really don't like it, because not all of them are created equally, but they can do that lawfully. They can sell your sell your mortgage. So they sold my mortgage, and in that transition, they had recorded that I was late, but they transitioned and they recorded that I was late. And because I actually wrote a letter, because that's what I do. I write letters. I make sure that I stand up for myself and I stand up for my client. So I wrote a letter. First, I called them and talked to them. I wrote a letter because I know the credit bureau has to, within 30 days, go in and get a response from any company that you're challenging, and they did it, and I was successful in doing that. So you have the right to challenge, and then they actually, because see what happens with that, when you show those late, it's not fair to you, for one, and it's not in your favor. So they had to write me a letter, and they had to fix it, and they wrote me a letter apologizing, and then I was able to get everything corrected. So you can challenge anything that seems inaccurate. Now here's another thing too. Now on your credit report, because you have the three, and unfortunately they don't all report the same information timely. So you do a comparison between the three. And why do you do a comparison? Because your creditor, or your potential or prospective creditor, whoever you're trying to get a loan or trying to get a loan with, you don't know who they're pulling from. They could pull from either three of the credit bureaus. So that's why you want to make sure that they are in sync and that information that they are reported is accurate in your favor.
On an average, how much would your credit score drop if you don't pay it within the 30 days?
It depends on the credit bureau. I'm not real sure about their algorithm, but I do know I would say between 10 to 20 points. Between 10 to 20 points that it could drop. And which is important, because if you're right there on that cuff or on the verge of where you need to be, say if you're trying to get a mortgage, you don't want that kind of drop to your credit score.
What's a realistic emergency fund target for federal employees or contractors given the increasing frequency of shutdown threats?
Yeah, that's crazy. And my heart goes out to being a former federal employee, to my co-workers formerly that have to experience that. It's just crazy. So, and I've been thinking about that, and you kind of want to help them all you can if it's just information. But to answer your question, I always tell my clients, and whether you work for the federal government or not, the objective or your target is to have 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses saved. so that when something happens, especially in this case where they went, 42, 43 days, a little over a month, and people did not get a paycheck, that would have assisted them and helped them if they had 3 to 6 months of expenses saved, so it wouldn't put them in an adverse state. And that's for people, whether they're like me, federal employee, retired, or federal employees, or if you don't work for the government. I do encourage people to have 3 to 6 months of savings to cover your monthly expenses.
Feeling stuck in your wellness journey? You're not alone. That's why I created the Embodiment Collection. This collection includes 8 digital products we've created to help you embody these traits and connect with your best self. You can buy one, mix and match, or purchase the deluxe, which includes all embodiment guides. Head to LamisaWellnessCollective.com/store or click the link below to shop now. Let your wellness transformation start today. Now, back to the episode.
Now, if you are a contractor, because what happens with a contractor, you're under contract. And sometimes, if during that period the contract is not being paid, it takes a little longer for contractors to get that contract back up to speed where it needs to be so you can start getting your monthly paycheck. I think they should go anywhere from 9 to 12 months to have money saved to cover their expenses, because it does take so long. But as people have experienced from this recent government shutdown, I tell people, save as much as you can, because you never know what's going to happen in this current environment that we're having to live in. So you have to look out for yourself, and you have to be the biggest advocacy for yourself, and that is to save.
Flexibility during future shutdowns. Are there specific accounts or financial structures that would give people more flexibility during future shutdowns?
Absolutely, and a very good question, because most people, they have the regular savings account. And in this day and age, a regular savings account is just not cutting it, because for one, if you want to save money, you want to get a bigger or the best return that you can get on your funds. So I suggest people get a high yield savings account. A lot of banks offer them, but do your due diligence again. See what's out there so you can get the biggest return on your money. Do a high yield savings account. And as we talked previously on our previous session, a CD, a certificate of deposit. And I like CDs, and I do push CDs, because I think you don't want to make it easy to get your money. You can get your money with a CD, but there are penalties in getting your money. So that gives you a second thought on whether you want to do that or not. Just pull that money out. And sometimes when we have to do a little bit more, then we kind of change our mind and say we'll go another way. But the objective is to save money. So, and they have CDs out there, like we discussed last time, 6, 7, 12, 18, 24 months. They have a time frame that could accommodate any individual. There's also the money market accounts out there. You want to use a money market, any vehicle that's going to assist you in saving money, so those funds are not easily accessible. Now, and I do encourage people, don't put all your apples in one basket, so to speak. Get more than one checking account. More than one account at a different financial institution. I wouldn't. I don't suggest you just have the one. I don't want you to have money all over the place, but 1 or 2 bank accounts at a different bank, I think, will also assist people in saving money and so that they can meet their target goals and create that kind of structure that people are looking for to help them in the event of a shutdown.
Is it good to have several checking accounts? One for spending, one for bills, one for travel? What are your suggestions that you give your clients?
Oh, absolutely. I am a big advocate for that. I think that your bill account should be separate from your disposable income, meaning your disposable income is income that's left after you pay your bill. So what I like to tell people to do is move your money to another account. So that for if like we were talking about the high yield savings account, money markets, and all those, you should have those accounts separate. But I would go one step forward, or one step further. Excuse me, like you just stated. For a checking account, I would have one for my main bills to pay my bills because it goes right there, and then you want to have a checking account for your disposable. So if you want to have, and this is, listen, all of this is outside of your savings because these are accounts you're going to be processing transactions against daily or weekly or however, very often, frequently, I should say. But that's separate from your savings account. So yes, you should have two accounts: one for paying your bills and one for having for your disposable income. Now, here's the thing that you need to be mindful of because banks, I don't like to give away money. You're gonna hear me say that a lot. I don't like giving away my money. I don't. So some of them, when you do that, make sure, see what type of, if you have two checking accounts, some of them require you to maintain a specific amount, a balance, a monthly balance before you incur fees. A lot of credit unions don't do that. So if you can put your money in a credit union and do that, that's really good. But if you can't, and you're just using a commercial, a regular account, then you want to make sure that how much money do you have to have in that account so you don't incur fees.
How can people affected by government shutdown leverage credit to position themselves for security during a shutdown or crisis?
Okay, another good question. Okay, so and what I want to tell people today, regardless of whether you work for the government or not, and regardless of what your status is, get prepared because we can already see the writing on the wall that this administration and what we are up against, we are going to have to work hard to take care of ourselves. So I think that you keep your credit utilization low. If you have a credit card and you can, even if your credit card is max or already almost to the hill, start now working to pay that down. Because what I like for people to kind of think about is we don't really need to go out and do a whole lot of shopping now. We don't. We don't. We got to change our habits because if you last year you made it on what you had, you did. You had the clothes, you had food or whatever. And I know it's different this year. I know things are a little bit more strenuous this year. But think about what you already have versus what you need. And therefore keep your credit utilization down. Don't spend as much money and save more. And don't think it's gonna be forever because for one, our Father is looking, He's covering us. So none of this is going to be forever. So let's think short term and for long term results. So, keep your credit utilization down and just know that you're making yourself better for the future by doing so.
So, what are some suggestions you have for spending at the holidays with this economic issues that we have going on?
Okay, good. And I know if you've been watching any of the Good Morning Americas to Today Show and all, they've been giving out all kind of tips that I agree 100% with. And that is don't go out buying everybody that you can think of in your family a present. For one, we can't afford to because if you're trying to do that, you put yourself in debt. So there are lots of things you can do. Really and truly, have a family gathering. Show more love. You know what I mean? And just love on each other during this time because I can't talk enough about that. We got to love on each other. Now, if you have to give a gift, there are baked goods. You can bake someone a gift. You can give somebody dinner because food. That's a source of contention nowadays. People being able to eat, cook them a meal, or you could make them something, arts and craft, if that's your area, because a lot of people really love that, and portraits. I mean, I know, you know me and my grandchildren. Give me a portrait of my grandchildren, and I'm going to be really happy. So, things that bring the family together during this time and stuff, instead of, because truly, if you think about it, all these years we go out and spend all this money for these gifts for one day, and then people you never see, you don't know if they enjoy it or whatever. I mean, it's nice and thoughtful to give a gift. I if you can, do so, but during these times, let's love on each other more. And I think that because you know when you wrap your arms around somebody or show them love, they don't forget that. And it carries for a long time. So some of the things that are more hands on, I think work better during this current environment instead of spending a lot of money on people. I know that's what I'm gonna do for my girls. I think it's gonna be a rude awakening this year, but I mean they think that they're grown, long grown, been grown a long time. But moms always kind of spoiled them. But I gotta back away from that. Plus, I got three grandchildren, so I'll put more attention on them than the adults.
My daughter-in-law has been doing a lot of baking, and that's what she has been giving as gifts. She went to a wedding and she gave a gift as some sourdough bread to the bride's family.
Yeah, great idea. People love bake. They like cookies, and you can get those little tins that don't cost a lot of money, and put your little ribbon on it, and just say, "Here from my heart." People like that. They do like that.
Yeah.
That's great. Good idea.
What is one final tip you'll leave for someone listening who is looking for security during such inconsistency economic times?
Okay, another good question, and I know I've talked about it during this session, and that is look out for yourself. And that means, and I don't mean be selfish because you don't have to be selfish, but you have to look out for numero uno, and that's yourself. Because as you can see, there's so much going on around that you're going to be left behind if you don't look out for yourself. Now, just what I've talked about earlier, start creating a savings for yourself. And I know for some people, like I said, when you're in your prime, so to speak, like now, working hard, not a retirement, not saying I'm not in my prime, but a retirement, it's not going to be as easy to save money and do the things that that you want to do to create the wealth that we would like to have. But you have to. You got to pull that budget out and look at that budget and look at ways that you can save money, and then do it. Action. Do it. That's what you need to do. Start putting a little money to the side because you got to look out for yourself. You can see the writing on the wall, and encourage your family and your friends to do the same because you won't save money and then have to give it away because somebody's gonna be knocking on your door. But no, I know. I'm just saying. I'll just say that to be funny. But work to put yourself in a better financial position and start saving money and paying down your debt. Look at your debt and try to pay down your debt and get yourself out of debt. Even if you think you're doing good. If you think that it's not going to happen to you, you can't think like that anymore because you don't really know. And unless you're one of the billionaires and you're hanging out with the billionaires, you got to look out for yourself. And that's the final thought that I give to everybody. Just start doing the work to get yourself in a better financial position because you're going to thank yourself in the end. In the long run, you're going to thank yourself. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much, Regina, for coming on and sharing more information that we continuously need in this season that we're in. So thank you. You be blessed and have a wonderful day. Bye.
You too. And thank you for having me. Thank you. Love you.
Love you.